You're listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, where faith
and what's trending collide. Welcome back to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. This is Eddie.
What's up, everyone? This is Miguel, and we are so thankful that you are tuned in for another episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. We want you to take this moment right now, if you are not subscribed, to subscribe to our podcast. Wherever you are listening right now, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. Shout out to all of our listeners, to all of our viewers watching us on YouTube and checking out the visual there. Be sure to subscribe, like, comment, share, do all of the things. And, we're just excited for all of our new listeners and all of our, new people just joining us on this ride. Thank you so much for listening to the God Life Culture Podcast.
Yeah. And, for the new listeners, for the people that have been with us from the beginning, from the people that have been with us through the whole journey, it's been really great, especially with, each year we try to do a little something different.
Yeah.
We try to amp up the volume a little bit more. So we're excited, and we know that you guys are appreciative of little things that we add here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely stay listening, stay connected, stay tuned. We have a lot more in store, a lot of great conversations, and we want you guys to definitely be a part of it. All right. But we started this last week, right?
Yeah.
Talking about different music features and people that are releasing new music and projects. And last week we spoke about Maverick City, and we have another one this week. So Eddie, let us know about the music feature for this week.
Yeah, so you may remember her from one of our episodes from last year. We had Destiny Marco with us, and she was speaking to us about her upbringing and, how she got into music and what she was doing. And, she spoke about a project that she was putting together, and she has released that project. It's called Antes y Después. She has a track called Antes y Después as well. She has songs like Estaba Ahí, Cinderella, Estoy Aquí, No Puedo. She has a song even with Lucia Parker called En Ti. So check out her music. It's really cool too. Antes y Después goes in and out of English as well, which is one of those things that we've spoken about with her, and we've spoken about with other people as well, that we had last year, which is the idea of the fluidity in the language, where we have people who worship in English, worship in Spanish, or worship in Portuguese, and even with the same tracks, they either go in and out of that, or they have one track in English, one track in Spanish, and vice versa. So be sure to check out Antes y Después by Destiny Marco. So Miguel, do we have another music feature to share with everybody?
Yes, we do. And this is again from a returning guest. He was on the podcast last year as well. Actually, one of our top episodes, that was streamed, and it is Zach Webb. Zach Webb has released a new song titled Found. And, it was awesome listening, to the song, but also just seeing his excitement as he was releasing it, right? I think that's something that, it's always great to see the excitement in people when they're releasing something that they believe in, when they're releasing something that they work so hard for. And I just remember him posting up that the song already had like 500,000 streams in just, a few, days of its release. So definitely shout out to Zach Webb on his new single titled Found. And, one of the song lyrics, part of the song that definitely got to me was the part that says, all the days that I thought that I'd never get through, searching for answers all along, it was you. Sorry for all the times that I ignored you. I can't imagine a moment to be without you. So definitely go and check out Zach Webb and his new song Found.
Yeah, so make sure you check out both of those music features and tune in next week to see who else we have to share with each and every one of you. So yesterday was Mother's Day.
Yes.
And I think it's a holiday that, depending if you're the mom or the dad or the kid or the whoever, there's a different sense of responsibility or urgency when it comes to it. But I think overall, at the end of the day, really when it comes to Mother's Day is honoring the moms that are out there. And I think the idea of mom is something that for different people may mean different things. So when you hear the word mom, what is it that comes to mind for you?
Immediately my mom comes to mind. But I think in general, when you think of the word mom, I think of, someone who loves, right?
Yeah.
Unconditionally, someone who cares, a nurturer, right? But definitely when I think of the word mom or hear the word mom, my mom is definitely the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah. And I think for most people, that's what it really is.
Yeah.
It's really, especially if you had a great relationship with your mom and your mom was part of your life, immediately you think of your mom. For other people, maybe a grandparent. It could be an aunt and uncle. It could be a person that they just looked at as a mother figure, because I think that at the end of the day, the idea of mom is fluid in itself as well, because everybody's family structures, not everybody's family structure is the same.
Yeah.
Some people have traditional families, mom, dad, brother, sister, that thing. Others, because of whatever reason, their tree or their structure of family looks a little different. But yesterday was a day that, regardless of if it was your biological mom, if it was your spiritual mom, if it was your play cousin mom, whatever the situation was, you did take a day to send them a little text, or you did take a day to give them a call, or to, reach out to them or spend the day with them, because, it's like that thing where, honestly, you should be honoring your mom all year round, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, type of a situation. But sometimes you forget, or sometimes you don't give it the importance as you should, and Mother's Day is a good day to do that.
Yeah, and it's awesome because it's one day where you're, intentionally doing this, right?
Yeah.
But hopefully this is something that you practice on the norm.
Yes.
Right? That every now and then, we get caught up in the busyness of life and all the things that are happening. Every now and then, let's remember to just let those people know around us that we love them, that we care for them, that, we're grateful for them. So when it comes to specifically mothers and Mother's Day, I think that, Mother's Day is just kind of that one day where you intentionally make that effort, to let her know how much you love her and appreciate her.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, I think growing up, it was always a big deal, right? As a kid, my dad was always very much like, Mother's Day is coming around, what are we going to do? What are we going to get? And, I just remember like, having vivid memories of just like, helping my dad make breakfast. Like that was the whole thing, like breakfast in bed and, all of that. So it's something that it's great to have those memories kind of growing up, like doing those things. And then it's interesting now, being an adult when, I don't live in, their house anymore or anything like that. It's just interesting how that dynamic changes and how you have to, keep the same principles and ideas and kind of that same heart behind what you did, but it's just something different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like I may not be there in the morning to like, help my dad make breakfast, right? But it's just different. Like, what am I doing now? You know what I mean? To help, and just kind of make that day special for her. So I think as you grow and evolve as well, that whole idea of how you celebrate Mother's Day, changes.
Yeah, and I think it changes from person to person as well, where there are, it's like the idea of love languages, where there's moms that appreciate that. Like they love when I wake up, I want my little mesita with my flour and my pancakes and my this and my that. And then there's other parents, other moms that, they love to receive a gift, or they just want you there. Like, they don't even want you to make anything. They're like, no, I'll make the breakfast. I just want you there. Let's spend the day together. And, you know the language that communicates best with your mom.
Yeah.
And if you can do all of that, get her a gift. Make her breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Don't be making her breakfast, make 2 pancakes, and then now you're expecting her to make Mother's Day dinner. Like, that's messed up. Don't do that.
Right.
So it's kind of like you catering to them, because at the end of the day, I think we speak about the things that makes them a good mom. Oh, she's loving, she's caring, she's attentive, she's fun. But I think that there are a lot of stresses that moms go through that maybe other people don't. I think that mothers have this sense of care and attention and, wanting their kids to always be safe, wanting their kids to always be, giving their best foot forward. No matter how old a kid is, like, you're not in your house no more. I'm not in my mom's house no more either. There's always a sense of worry. Like, are they okay? Are they doing good? Especially if you have a spiritual mom, they're always praying for you. They're always, so there's like a lot of stress that goes into being a mom. When you take into consideration the fact that they had to carry you for 9 months, or at least 9 months, depending if you're a preemie or not,
right.
And then had to care for you. And, there are parents, and I think we see a lot of this more now where, dads are taking more of a present role in like child upbringing and stuff like that or whatever. But, traditionally, I think that especially in a Latino community, it was always like it's the mom's responsibility to take care of the kids. The dad goes out to work. There's a lot of stress that goes into being a mom that I don't think one day is good enough to highlight that. But at least we have a day to give them their little, not their little, their huge flowers for everything they do for us.
Yeah, and like you said, I think there's just something specific about the love of a mother, right? And the care that can really only come from her, right? Yes. And I think, there are moments that I think of where, my mom was there for me, and, moments where, both my parents were, right? But it's almost like they're just special moments where it's like you kind of need your mom, or you want your mom's acknowledgement or your mom's care or love in that moment, and I think there are just also times in life where you look back and you remember just how much they cared, and how much your mom was just there for you, and in specific moments, you know what I mean. I look back at the time when I had first gotten diagnosed with diabetes. I was like 13 years old, and just that whole process, my mom was the one that took me to the doctor, you know what I mean? And then from there, she was the one that took me to the hospital, and she was the one that stood there with me and all of that, so those are memories that I think of that, aren't, let's say, the best or the most happiest times of my life, right? But I didn't go through it by myself, and I have always told her that she is, one of the strongest, women that I know, because of the things that she's been through, both, just in her own life growing up, with having like, different diseases and illnesses, and, seeing like, just that trajectory, right? Or hearing about it, not seeing it, hearing, right? Her stories about just, growing up and all of that. And then, knowing the things that she's been through now, like even just with her kids, with me, my brother, and our health and different things like that, then seeing the transition from that into like pastorship, and, seeing how she's handled, adversity and how she's handled conflict, is definitely, there's so much strength there, So I think a lot of times when we talk about mothers and children, I think it can be focused on like the mother-daughter bond, right? And although I'm sure there's that mother-daughter bond, I think there is also that, special connection between a mother and her son, or her sons, that's awesome and very special, that I think sometimes can get overlooked, right? And can kind of get pushed to the side. But definitely, looking back, I think that you'll remember, moments where your mom was there, and our moms all show love differently. You know what I mean? There are moms that could be very affectionate. There are moms that probably aren't as affectionate as others, but still have a way of letting you know that they care. Still have a way of letting you know that they're there for you, that they love you. You know what I mean? So it's kind of appreciating all of those things, and knowing that, especially if maybe you weren't as close to your mom growing up for whatever reason or another, hoping that your parents kind of did the best they could with the knowledge they had, with the resources they had, with the experience they had, and, hoping that there's a way to kind of mend that and make that better now.
Yeah, and I think that as an adult, it's important to be able to look back and see those things, because at the end of the day, there isn't a manual that's given to parents. There isn't a manual that's given to mom that's like, here are the 33 things that you need to do in order to be an effective parent. I'm pretty sure there's some manual. You go to Barnes and Nobles and find something, but it's not the same thing. And a lot of times moms are created based off of experiences that they had, their childhood. Did they have a mom to look up to? Did they have females around them? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Were they good experiences? Were they bad experiences? The circumstances around them becoming a mom. There's so many different things and experiences that influence who they were and who they become after giving birth. And we see this even in the Bible. The Bible has many examples of women who were moms. We're going to go from the beginning. We speak about Eve. The first mom, the mom of all moms, was out there. And, yes, when they were in the Garden of Eden, they had a great relationship with God, and they got to spend time with God and to see him and all that other stuff. But, Eve in essence was the first mom that was out there that didn't actually technically have a mom. So, it's like, and I look at Eve as someone who represents the women who grew up without a mom. you know, whether their mom passed away or whether they didn't have a great relationship with their mom, whatever the situation was, you know, she was kind of put out there and it's kind of like, you got to figure it out. You know, you got to let the mother instincts kick in. And, you know, you do the best that you can given that. And I've seen that a lot. I've seen women, you know, step up to the plate. Same thing with men, but now it's a mom's day.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen women step up to the plate and have to really rely on their motherly instincts to be the best mom that they could be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, again, there are times where, you know, like you said, you may not have had that example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's almost like, especially as Christians or believers, I think that that's the one thing that, again, we can rely on.
Yeah.
That if you were to find yourself in that situation where you are just like, oh my goodness, I'm a mother, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, that we truly can, you know, lean on God for that direction.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, you know, in those moments of just crying out, in those moments of just asking, you know, for help, which, you know, all moms do at one point or another, you know, God definitely comes through, you know, and, you know, that was speaking about Eve. Then we go and move on to Moses' mom, Jochebed, right? Which is a whole different situation, right? Where, you know, it's funny because it's so true that she's not really talked about as much, right? When we talk about women in the Bible, we go to, you know, we'll say Eve sometimes, we'll talk about Mary, Ruth, Deborah, the warrior, you know, like princess, like, you know, like all of that. And it's like we don't mention Jochebed, Moses' mother, you know, like this, she's not the first one that comes to mind, but in essence, the strength that she had, right, to in essence give her baby up, right, place her child, her baby in the Nile River, right, and fully trusting in God and fully trusting that God had a plan and a purpose in his life. And then we end up seeing how, you know, it worked out in her favor later on, that she was able to like meet with him again and all of that. There's strength there, right? There's, you know, a boldness there. And I think mothers exhibit that trait all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I also think of, you know, and I look at it as a non-traditional way of adoption. Yeah. You know, like she was a mom who had to give her child up, you know, because the circumstances around her keeping him did not keep him safe. And she loved him enough to know that she needed to let him go. And I think that there are moms out there that have had to make that decision to put their children up for adoption or to give their child to a family member that can better take care of them. And then vice versa. The Pharaoh's daughter, you know, found him, took him in, took care of him. You know, obviously, you know, his mother, his biological mother was part of that as well. But we have adoptive moms out there as well who have stepped up to the plate and have taken care of kids that didn't technically come out of them, but they feel like they did. You know, and those are those motherly instincts that I speak about, that, you know, when you love someone or you love a child as if your own, it does not matter if they're blood or not. You will still go tooth and nail to defend them and to provide them with the best that you can give them. Yeah,
and it's funny because then later in the Bible, we see the writer in Hebrews 11, the whole faith chapter, by faith this person, by faith that person, she gets a shout out.
Yeah, she does. Know what I mean? True. Yeah,
and it basically saying that, you know, she did what she needed to do to save her son, who then in turn God used to save his people.
Yeah.
You know, so it's almost like, again, those tough decisions that mothers sometimes have to make, you know, they may not see the results of it right away. They may not see the fruits of their labor right away, but they have to trust, if this is what God moved you to do, if this is the decision you had to make because of the circumstances you were in, you have to trust and have that hope that God will see it through.
Yeah, you know, and I think another example of a mom in the Bible is Bathsheba, who is an interesting story. I think because of the story behind how David saw her, lusted after her, decided to have her, and then arranged the whole situation with getting her husband technically killed.
Right.
You know, and there was a child that was conceived of that didn't come into fruition. But then they did wind up having another kid together, which was Solomon. So we do see that cycle again of, you know, untraditional situations happening where moms are either put in situations or they put themselves in situation. Everybody's story is different, where maybe that wasn't the best way, or maybe that wasn't the traditional way of you getting with someone and conceiving a child. But at the end of the day, regardless of what the backstory is, you still step up to the plate and you're there for your child. And we see, you know, Solomon, like, Come on. Like, there's so much that you can say from Solomon's life, who came out as a byproduct of Bathsheba and David together.
Yeah, one of the greatest kings, one of the wisest people. You know what I mean? And then interestingly enough, again, with Bathsheba, you know, we know that David, his line leads to Jesus.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And Bathsheba is actually one of the people that is mentioned in Jesus's line. You know,
I think she's like one of 2 females. Or
I think it's 5. There's only 5 females mentioned, and she's one of them. So again, someone that I think the people at the time, you know, probably were gossiping about and had rumors about and were probably murmuring because of her situation and what they were hearing and, you know, the devastation that she also went through. You know what I mean? I think we can all relate to the idea of making mistakes and having consequences and suffering those consequences. You know what I mean? And in her case, you know, she made a mistake and there were mistakes that she had made and it was a rough journey, right? But like you said, she ended up then having Solomon, you know what I mean? And then later on just being mentioned as a part of, you know, Jesus's family line. So again, giving mothers today the hope if they find themselves in these circumstances where it's like, man, like this is not good. You know what I mean? Like, how can this work? And then, you know, I'm this person, I'm that, I don't deserve, you know, to be a mother. I'm not a good mom. All of those thoughts that, you know, flood minds at time, you could have the hope that, you know, Jesus can fix any situation. You know, there is restoration at the end, you know, of your story. And we move on to then the most popular, one of the most popular mothers, Mary, right? The mother of Jesus. Okay. And this is a good one. You should talk about this one.
I think, well, you know, I think that once again, it's a very like non-traditional like situation that happened, her being, you know, the Immaculate Conception of Jesus. And, you know, and I think that
we see that happen all the time.
That happened, though. Right. But I think it's more the idea of the pressure that she had to feel as a woman who had not yet been with her husband to conceive a child, to then try to explain that to society. You know, there was definitely a pressure that she had to go with. You know, she had to deal with maybe the rumors and all that other stuff, on top of the fact that you add the layer that she was giving birth to Jesus. You know, there's a lot that she had to deal with,
and that she was young. That's
and
the
that
other
she was
thing.
young, and
young
that,
mother.
you know, she was there through his whole journey as well, and seeing everything, the rise of his ministry, seeing how the people turned against him, seeing the crucifixion. Like, there's a lot that she had to deal with, and you know, we see that mothers have to go through that as well. Unfortunately, you know, I think that as a society, we would love for kids to outlive their parents, but unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. And there are mothers who outlive their children and have to see their children go through journeys, sometimes great journeys where unfortunately a sickness happens or accident happens, or they have to see their child go through like really tough times and try to be there for them and try to support them and try to guide them. And you know, I think those are the things that when we're speaking about moms are the things that they have to deal with, because no matter how upset they could be at their child, they'll still love them. And you know, and that's not the situation between Mary and Jesus. You know, she loved him and she was there for him and she supported him in his ministry and all of that. But to see what he had to go through, especially at the end of his life on earth, you know, that's something that no mother wants to see or experience. And regardless, even if she was so certain, like, no, this is, you know, the Son of God and he's going to resurrect and, you know, he's going to be so powerful, even though she was faithful enough in understanding that was right, that was going to happen, that doesn't remove the fact that she had to mourn him. That doesn't remove the fact that she had to see him go through all those things. And that hurt her as well. So, you know, shout out to Mary. That's why she's the original OG.
Right. No, it's true.
Eve's going to have a problem with that statement.
But again, it's the idea that I'm sure every mother would love to protect their child from, you know, the contamination of life, from the trials, the dark moments. And I'm sure even if I asked my mom, you know, all the times and the things that I've been through the years, I'm sure if she could have just, you know, took that away, she would have, right? And there were things that even from, you know, the mother's perspective that they have to watch their children go through that they necessarily can't take it away from them. They can't even honestly go through the journey for them. You know what I mean? They can be there with them, but there are things that the children will have to face on their own. There are things that we face on our own that we don't have our moms for. You know what I mean? That we have to go through. And it's almost like that surrender and that acknowledgement and that trust that mothers need to have to know that their kids are truly in God's hands. You know, that's tough. You know what I mean? And that does take a lot of trust in God. We look at Mary's situation, having to flee with Jesus, how many times that happened, and then the time where she like lost him and Jesus bounced and was in the temple and she was looking for him. You know what I mean? Like there's so many moments. You know, I remember watching The Passion of the Christ when, you know, it came out, and the way they depicted Mary and just kind of the emotion and how she had to look at everything and view everything and watch her son, like you said, suffer. That was a lot. Yeah. You know, and the idea that she knew the story. She knew this was coming. But again, like you said, it doesn't take away from that emotion and that feeling, which I think, you know, we know that our moms have that emotion and that feeling, you know, that's expressed in different ways.
Yeah, you know, and then there's this group of moms in the Bible, and I think that they're, you know, everything that, when it comes to the Bible, there's purpose behind everything. Everyone that is highlighted, all the stories, and when you see certain things occur more than once, there's an importance behind it. So when you hear the story of people like Sarah, Rebecca, Hannah, Elizabeth, women who were barren, women who had trouble conceiving, who had to pray and had to like do so many things to ask God to have them conceive a child, and then we see that happen, you know, I think it brings hope to women who are struggling with that. You know, unfortunately, there's some women that, you know, having a child for them is very difficult, whether it's difficult for them to conceive, whether it's difficult for them to carry. You know, those are the processes that women have to go through that men don't have to experience, men don't have to deal with, men don't have to carry that, you know, situation of, you know, feeling life and then life not being there no more, and then what that does on you emotionally and mentally and as a woman. And we see these women who went through those experiences, and we see them, you know, come out testifying of God's greatness and of God's awesomeness and his power and his healing power, you know, and I think those are examples of women that bring other women, you know, hope, and they bring other women strength to understand that regardless of where you're at now, whether you're having trouble or if you're in fear of, you know, because maybe you have lost children before and you're currently carrying, you're like, oh man, I don't know, you know, am I going to come full term, or am I not? Are there going to be complications? You know, these are the women that you look to for strength and to tell you that it is going to be okay. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, there are situations that are horrible. And, you know, sometimes we question God and we're like, God, it's not fair. Why me? Why is it that I'm having so much difficulty, you know, conceiving? But then these are also the moms that, man, when that baby is born, that no matter what that child looks like, they'll be like, this is the most precious child out there. You know,
but I feel like all moms,
yes, and
regardless of
that went left real quick. But what I was trying to say is that the love that they have for their kids is like nobody can tell them anything.
But
about
we
these
hear
kids.
This when people say like that's the face only a mother can love, right? Have you heard that before?
Yes,
like,
we've heard that.
You know,
yeah.
So again, there is a special kind of love that comes from a mother.
Yes,
you know?
But it's specifically moms that, you know, that had difficulty.
Yes,
with,
absolutely.
You know, carrying. I think that there is an extra love that they give because there's this general appreciation of, oh my God, it's my baby, I love you. But then now this is no, you have no idea,
right?
How big of a gift you are for me because I've prayed for this, I've wanted this, I've cried for this. You know, there's another level of appreciation. That's like Super Saiyan mom. Right there.
Yeah. And what I love about the Bible is the idea that you can literally put yourself in these people's shoes. Yeah. You know what I mean? If, you know, you find yourself a mother that is struggling, right, to conceive and all those, you know, all those different things. Again, each of these women had different circumstances. Yes. Sarah was old in age, you know what I mean? And felt like, you know what, God had said this, but it seems like my time hasn't come. Even she, you know, didn't do things the right way and, you know, kind of gave up hope and was like, Abraham, go do what you got to do to have a kid, you know, but it's like, that's not what God had said, you know, but then she ended up having, you know, that child, that promised child. But then we go to someone, you know, like Rebecca, where Rebecca was kind of in a different situation where Rebecca, you know, was praying and asking God, you know, for this. And then she has twins. So it's like, you know, you're praying, asking God for a child, and you end up having twins too, Jacob and Esau.
Yeah.
Then you have someone else like a Hannah who was praying and praying so much that people were looking at her like, you're crazy. Are you drunk? You know, the idea of the people around you that tell you like, you know, time has passed. I don't think it's going to happen. You should consider this. You can consider that. You should probably not do this. But if you know what God has spoken, you know, you stick to that. You stick to that trust, you know, and we see that Hannah was then able, you know, to have a child. So it's almost like all of these stories with these women and the context surrounding their situations were all so different that I'm sure you can find where you kind of fit in their story.
Yeah, and I think we can't leave Elizabeth out of the equation either, because, you know, the Bible speaks about how when Mary went to go visit Elizabeth, they were concerned because the baby hadn't moved. And, you know, this idea of resurrection even happening there, or this idea of, Lord, you know, I haven't felt anything in a minute. I'm getting nervous. I'm getting scared. What's going on? You know, and even seeing in that where, you know, I remember there were like situations when we had the boys also, where it was like a day was like the baby's not moving a lot, you know, and as a parent, as a dad, I was worried, but I can imagine as a mom, it's kind of like, okay, like let's start drinking sugar, or let's start doing this, let's start dancing just to get him moving. Because I think that especially, you know, once you give birth and once you have a child, there's always a level of worry. It's like the saying, there's a lot of people say that once you have a kid, you never really go to sleep. Like you never really rest. But I think that especially during those months of pregnancy, like any little thing could be a worrisome moment. So even in a situation like that, where the kid isn't as active and it's like, it's not really moving and you can't see, it's like you can't see what's going on. You don't know what the situation is. You know, those are things that make you nervous as a mom and as a parent. And even in that little detail, that's an example of something that was in the Bible as well. You know, so it's like I think at the end of the day, we say all of this to say that moms are incredible.
Yeah. And that we can learn from them.
Yes.
You know, being a young man, being a young woman, being a child, like you can learn from looking at mothers, you know, both in the Bible and even in your life, you know. And I think about those individuals who may not have the best relationship with their moms and may not, you know, have that connection with them and may be struggling. You know, then you have the group of people who have lost their moms and whose moms aren't here anymore and they're dealing with that, you know. So this whole idea of, you know, a mother and, you know, the idea of moms, it brings out different emotions for everyone,
people,
you know, depending on their situation. But definitely, I think that we can learn a lot from the love of a mother, and ultimately knowing that, you know, to imagine the love that a mother can have for her child or for her children doesn't even compare to the love that God has for his children.
Yeah.
You know? So when we see these examples and we think of these stories and think of our own lives when our moms were there, when they did everything they had to do, when, you know, they, you know, went crazy when they had to go crazy, and they, you know, defended us when they had to defend us, and all of those things, just thinking that even, you know, our Father, our Heavenly Father, you know, his love doesn't even that love of a mother, I guess you could say, doesn't even amount to the love that God has for us, you know, and can't compare. So shout out to all of the moms out there, and hopefully, you know, you had a good day yesterday, right? Or this past Mother's Day. And for those who may not have that connection or relationship, and your mom is still here or your children are still here, you know, we encourage you to reach out.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
Take that step. And trust, especially that, you know, as Christians and believers, trust that God sees, that God is aware, that God is there, that God, you know, sees all things, and don't give up. You know, don't give up trying to have that relationship or have that friendship and just, you know, connecting again.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, it's sometimes difficult to communicate these feelings and these ideas, and the idea that you want to start building a stronger relationship with another person, especially if it's your mom. So send them this podcast episode. Be like, hey, Mom, I saw something that reminded me of you. That's it. And then hopefully that would start a conversation amongst each other where she'll be like, oh, but why did he send this to me? Oh, that was really sweet. Thank you. And, you know, take advantage of it. If that opportunity opens, take advantage of it. Don't back down, you know, and build on that relationship. Because honestly, you know, especially when you come to realize it, that, you know, we're all human. So you're not going to have your mom forever. So for as long as you have her now, appreciate it, appreciate her, take advantage of it, and if you haven't communicated that with her, do so immediately.
Absolutely. So thank you once again for tuning in to our podcast this week. Send your mom a text, send her some flowers, call her if you haven't,
Yes.
right? And just show your appreciation, your love, and your gratitude. And just don't let it be around this holiday, right?
True.
Don't wait for Father's Day to be, grateful for your dad and, to reach out to your dad. Don't wait, for people's birthdays to come. Make sure that the people around you, your circle of people, your family, that they know that you love them, that you care for them. And, I've seen so many situations, even, just recently, within some of my extended family of just individuals who are just going through like different health crisis and different things like that. And, your time here on earth really isn't guaranteed. You don't know how long you have. You don't know what your last conversation will be with a loved one. You know what I mean? So definitely, make the best of it.
Absolutely.
But like I said, thank you for tuning in this week, and definitely follow us on social media. If you have Facebook or Instagram, find us at God Life Culture Podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, right, or listening to us on the podcast app, be sure to subscribe and definitely share this podcast.
Yeah, so shout out to all the moms. Shout out to my mom, my mother-in-law, my wife, who's an amazing mom. And you know what? We appreciate you and everything that you do. So thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. That's
God Life Culture.
Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.